Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Critical Reactions with your host, Bryan. We're going to do a special selection, which is where one of you tell me exactly what I need to check out. If you'd like to submit your own special selection, you can find the link to do so in the description box below. Today, we're going to be looking at something that's quite interesting, at least as far as the cover of the album art shows me. This one comes from Eliza. It says, I really enjoy your reaction, so I'd like to put a song request, Tannhäuser Derivè by Refused. Here's the Bandcamp link. Hope you enjoy. Alright, let's dive into this. So the album is called The Shape of Punk to Come, a chimerical abomination in 12 bursts. Yeah, I'm a little worried about this. But let's dive in. Let's see what Refused has for us. Yeah, it's got a little bit of a swing to it. Really interesting combination of textures too. Very brooding, but also has this like folk element to it, and I think a lot of that's coming from just this very simple tom and snare pattern. Yes. Some beautiful contrast here, dynamic work with the volume. I love these almost like ghost notes on these toms. No cymbals yet whatsoever. It's all been tom and snare. God, where did this come from? Wow. Yeah, it's such a stark contrast from the opening, playing around more with consonants. We've moved into a lot of sections of dissonance now.
Every street is an
And yet another element of contrast. These guys are all over the place.
Becomes a thrill, because it can be. Every turn we take, and every decision that we don't make, even the decisions we don't make, will bring us into the secrets of the town. Every corner we turn will lead us. Every corner we turn will lead us down the labyrinth. And every desire that we earn will guide us alive, living, loving, and searching.
Yes, beautiful transition into this. Having the screams existing in the last section as well and pulling us into this new heavier section. We've hit a 7/8 section as well. Maybe 7/4. Yeah. Yeah, bringing back elements of the beginning. Yes. Yeah, this is some gorgeous counterpoint. Yeah, variations on a theme where all the variations play simultaneously. Ooh. Oh, interesting note to end that on. Not quite a full resolution at all. So yeah, I really enjoy this. Also, it's interesting. It says this was released on October 27, 1998. And to me, it feels more modern than that. You know, I always have to remember that the 90s were over 20 years ago. Um, and to me, this is a very 2000s proggy metalcore kind of sound. Um, I don't know when. Actually, I can find out, can't I? Well, I thought I could find out. All right. So, yeah, to me, this feels a bit like uh, Between the Buried and Me. It goes through a bunch of different ideas, features a ton of interesting instrumental combinations that don't fit within the rock typical instrumentation. They go between spoken word, and I think there's one part with singing, and they have the screaming, and then there's also elements of very strong compositional technique there at the end with the three-way counterpoint that was all variations on a single theme. It is just an extremely, let me get this, I don't know, I'm excited to talk about this. It is an extremely competent composition. Not to mention, something we'll get into later is that it is very on point as far as the ideas that it's talking about in the lyrics and how the music supports that. I do not. It is a bit of an understatement to say that this is a competent composition. It is a really great master class in a lot of things, and we're going to dive into what those are in a second. But it's a lot of the same components that I see in Between the Buried and Me. Although they have refined it over the years, their first album is kind of like this. This album's called The Shape of Punk to Come, and I'm sure at the time this might have been considered prog punk, possibly, but I also see a lot of early metalcore ideas in here, and I wonder possibly if Refused was sort of proto metalcore. Taking some of these ideas and expanding it into a more of a, well, proto modern metalcore. I don't want that to get confused with the origins of metalcore, first wave metalcore, which were vastly different than this. I'm specifically talking about the mainstream evolution of metalcore in bands such as Bullet for My Valentine, and even some of the more palatable proggy metalcore that we see in later Between the Buried and Me. It is very interesting to hear some of the stuff that I don't think are punk and don't think of 1998 in this punk 1998 release. It's kind of fascinating to see this, and again, I've never heard of Refused. I actually had no idea what the band was called when I was putting this entire video together and getting the comment situated down there and all that. For some reason, I was reading it and Refused was just going right over my head, and I was just, that's not the name of a band. It's nothing I've ever heard of, and it's an interesting name. Um, and it's just wild to see that this, from my perspective, a bit unknown, seems to be at the forefront of a movement that would have happened half a decade later. It just kind of boggles my mind. And I'm curious now how big Refused was. I see they're a Swedish band from the early 90s, so this was maybe later in their release discography. But, were they heard outside of Sweden? Were they a large band outside of that? It says that they were part of an underground music in Sweden, so it's possible they never even made it out of there, and they maybe weren't even an influence on what was to come, but they were certainly at the forefront, leading this sound, even if they were unknown. It also kind of makes me think, if they were unknown, how much faster that mainstream metalcore sound would have come if people had heard Refused and it expanded a couple years early. I don't know. Those are my thoughts coming off of this, just looking at some of the extra information. But let's dive into the music and what they're doing here. First, everybody knows this is coming. Contrast. These guys have a ton of dynamic elements here. They have atmospheric dynamism. They have atmospheric dynamics. They have volume dynamics. they have vocal delivery dynamics, they have timbre dynamics. It is just all over the place. We have sections that are, 50 dBs apart from each other. We have string trios alongside a punk band setup. Um, we have spoken word right next to clean vocals, right next to harsh vocals. It is just, we have anger and just rather being upset at things. I don't know if anger is necessarily the right word, but there's definitely this feeling of unjustness, or unjust works. A displeasure, a disdain of things as they currently are. But then we also have the intro and the outro, which have completely different moods from that punk energy that we see in the middle of the track. This song embodies a lot of stuff at various times and finds a way to, for the most part, make it all rather cohesive. And they do this through a lot of really interesting transitions. But they also do it as far as, I think, now I'm still a bit uh, confused about it. I suppose I would need a second listen to really ascertain if it is, but I think it is a range thing that ties everything together. The song goes through several atmospheres, it goes through several styles, but it all feels cohesive, and I think it's because everything kind of sits within a very similar range as far as the music goes. The vocals, we have that sort of emo, high-pitched screaming thing going on. That is a fringe idea. It exists only in the middle. You can't really find it in the beginning or the end, or any instrument really working with that texture or range, but everything else sort of fits within the same area, and I think that that is what ties everything together, aside from some of the transitions. And the one transition I really want to point out, which I thought was phenomenal, was during the clean singing part. I think it was clean singing. Maybe it was spoken word. And we had the person say the word or sing the word, and then we had the scream in the background, like really pushed into the background of the production, repeating it. And what's really cool here is that, the first time it feels like it's perfectly in sync. We get a downbeat, and then the downbeat for the screamer, and then the downbeat for the next clean word. But then the next scream comes in after the downbeat or before the downbeat. I don't remember. It was out of sync though. And it wasn't until we went to the next section, which was introduced by a scream, that I realized that this screamer was also introducing the next tempo. Very clean, very clean. Beautiful foreshadowing right there that helps transition across these two concepts, these two musical passages. The one transition which I don't think worked too well is the one that I think technically separates the two songs. There is a slash between the two words in the title. I think that denotates a separation between ideas, at least it does to me. And we do have a very stark separating point between the first two movements, or the first two ideas, our intro and then the punk section, and then the string trio at the end. There is quite a bit of silence there, as we have a fade out into silence that goes into the string trio section. I think the silence actually had some electric guitar humming. It wasn't pure silence, but unless you're really listening for it, like I saw that we still had some audio in the visualizer, so I was trying to figure out what that was. It is the buzzing of an amp, probably. Um, but yeah, I think for most people it's going to feel rather silent, rather empty, and then this next section comes after that and feels separated. That's the only divide, the only transition I think was a bit on the harsher side, not because it is a stark a stark differentiation between them, but because there's a stark separation between the two. Um, but yeah, aside from that, there is just a lot of really great composition and diversity and contrast going on in everything that I just explained. There's also a lot of competent musicianship in here. And just, oh, let me talk about that variation on the theme at the end before we start diving into thematic elements here. So the first string instrument, violin, comes in center panned, and it's playing its thing. And then we get a right panned one, and it starts out the same but harmonizing. And I'm like, okay, cool, we're going to get a harmony here. And then they split off. And we've talked about this before recently, actually. I can't remember what band it was that was doing this idea where we have the interweaving of concepts or the interweaving of melody lines where they'll line up, do the same thing, possibly melody or possibly harmonizing, possibly playing the exact same thing, separating and doing their own ideas. And their own ideas are bouncing off of each other and making interesting rhythmic aspects here where we hear the two notes or the two melody lines creating sort of like a rhythmic hocket between them before lining back up and delivering that unified sound again. And on the second repetition, we get a left hand one that comes in. It's even higher. It's providing a nice harmony, three-part harmony now, and it goes and does its own thing. And the way that these three lines are playing off of each other when they're not in sync, and then the way that they line back up and create this beautiful harmonized triad is just gorgeous. It is beautiful. And it's a really interesting period to put at the end of this song. I don't really know how it fits, but I'm glad it's there just because I got to see more of this consonant side of them. We open the song with some consonant writing, and consonant is just the opposite of dissonance. It's music that sounds good together rather than sounding noisy together. And then we get this huge dissonant section in the middle where they're playing not just with being louder, but there's also sections that legitimately use dissonance in their dyads to create that texture in the music. It is such a stark contrast from the intro and outro. So yeah, I absolutely love getting another chance to hear that because the intro is nice, but it didn't quite show the full width or the full depth of their skill in writing consonant music, and then having this three-way counterpoint is just, yeah, beautiful. Like I said, I still don't know how it fits in with the song, but it is technically a separate song according to the song title, so we're gonna let it sit. Now, the song is interesting because I was about to call the song Refused. There's something about this band name that is not clicking with me. I don't. Anyways, the song is about refusing to conform to stagnation. It literally introduces its themes in a thesis statement in the first stanza. So where do we go from here? Just about anywhere. Disoriented but alive, boredom won't get me tonight. That sums up the entire song right there. And I think it really goes to, okay. So, bear with me here. My brain's rolling. The song is about rejecting the comforts of conformity and moving on with something, being creative, going out and doing something, not allowing the time to just pass. Boredom won't get me tonight. And I think that's not just boredom in the sense of staring at a wall and doing nothing, but boredom in sort of the sedated lifestyle of being a couch potato, which in the 90s was kind of a big deal. Just people sitting in front of the TV and watch, channel surfing. Showing my age a little there. Now we do Netflix surfing where we browse for an hour and watch nothing. Anyways, yeah, so the beginning of the song is very comfortable. I said there's like a folky aspect to it, but it's full of consonants. It is a very palatable section of the song. It's not offensive, it's not challenging. And we go from that into the punk part of the song, which is both of those. There are going to be some people who do not find the screaming to be listenable, who don't find the guitars to be creating music. They're just noisy kind of idea. And we spend a long bit of time here in this sort of noisy section. This is the chaos. Where do we go? These are the questions being asked. It's very open ended. It could be anything. He even says literally, we're disoriented. And the music is embodying those ideas. Um, then we do that section for a bit and we go to the first quiet section that contrasts it. And this is the spoken word part. And I like this because it's directed, right? I'm not going to say I picked up on any of the lyrics that were being screamed at me. It was just the compression, the natural distortion that's being applied to the vocals. It was covering up some of the syllabic pronunciation. I wasn't picking up on words. However, this part comes in and I heard everything that was said, and I think that's the import of this section, is that they know that this is more of a directive. People who are still asking, what's the direction? What's the destination? What should we be doing if we aren't allowing ourselves to be bored? What's the point of being disoriented? And literally, he says it. Spoken word says, every turn we take and every decision that we make will bring us into the secrets of this town, and every corner will lead us down the labyrinth. Every desire that we earn will guide us, alive, living, loving, and searching. Basically, the prime directive is continue to live. Go do the things that make you uncomfortable so that you can experience life. You can feel alive, like you're living life, like you're loving life, and search for the answers to the unknown. And we go from that into the next big section. And then from there, he just restates that boredom won't get me tonight. And we move into this final part. And I think this is finally starting to become clear to me because this is the huge creative output. This is the comforts of the beginning with the complexities of what we saw in the middle, and feeling multiple violin lines come together and support each other, not just in the fact that they can create these triad harmonies and come together to create something beautiful, but also create something beautiful as they do their own things. It is the idea that multiple people exploring life on their own can still, support and change and help other people doing their own thing. This was the 90s. The internet was just starting to come around. It was close. I'm trying to figure out when I was spending every evening on AOL Instant Messenger. Um, but yeah, I don't know when this relates to sort of this global connectivity that we got with the internet, but seeing this in modern day, it works so well. There's so many of us on our own sides of the screen, but we still find each other, we communicate with each other, we can experience life with each other, and we help each other grow. Whether it's you watching me on YouTube, me watching other people, joining Discord communities and chatting with people and influencing each other, just reaching out for other people in the world and, bouncing ideas off of each other, creating projects together. I mean, the Bandcamp here says that these members everybody that was in this band was part of other bands. They knew of each other, but they played shows together. However, they were just, they were in separate bands, and then they came together to create Refuse. It's about this connectivity of about pushing past the unknown to see what's on the other side. And man, it all just comes together so well in the music. And I really love how it kind of expresses itself in its most purest form there at the end with the string trio. It's really gorgeous work. And on top of that, it is catchy and right up my alley. Like I said, it reminds me so much of like a proggy metalcore stuff that we would see in the 2000s. That is still sort of my bread and butter as far as casual listening goes. So it is right up my alley casually, and I'm really digging the sorry, I punched y'all. I'm really digging the themes and lyrical ideas that are being presented here. So yeah, this is where you guys come in. I think I've talked about this long enough. That is Refused, Tannhäuser, and Derivè. Hit me up in the comments. Let me know what you thought about this one. If you agree with me or disagree, maybe you have a different theory about how everything works together. Go ahead and let me know what your experience is with this track. Above the comment section, there's a description box, and in there is a link to Linktree. It takes you to this thing right here. You can do pretty much anything here related to the channel. You can join a Discord community. Huh? You can support my channel through Patreon. You can submit your own special selection, pick up some merch, and a bunch of other things. If you're interested, go ahead and check that out. Above the description box, if you could, like, subscribe, and ring the bell. That's it for today. I'll be back tomorrow with our final day of the... Nope. Tomorrow is Thursday. Man, I tell you, I'm not good with time. Tomorrow, we'll be looking at our penultimate video for this week's theme and our final special selection for the week. Of course, on Friday, we're going to look at the cover of whatever we're checking out tomorrow and a creator request, which is where I look at a song that a band has made and has specifically reached out for me to look and, check out their music. All right, until next time, remember to be critical but not cynical of the music you listen to, and have a fantastic morning, afternoon, or evening whenever you choose to watch my videos.